Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Banking on Experience. We are super excited for the guest that we have today. You know, for all of our listeners out there, if you're not familiar with our podcast, please continue to follow us. We're going to have some really good guests in the next couple of weeks, especially around the credit union space. So you'll hear us here in the episode. Today, we're going to be talking about some very specific things around the member experience and the future of member experience. So stay tuned. All right, welcome back to the podcast. My name is James Gilbert. I'm your host from CRMNEXT. Today, we have a guest from a credit union who we are excited to have. Her name is Britney Bailey. Britney, you want to give us a quick intro on who you are?
Sure. Hello. My name is Britney Bailey. I'm the marketing director for Excel Federal Credit Union in the Metro Atlanta area. I've been in the marketing and public relations field for, a decade now. Time flies when you're having fun, huh?
It certainly does.
Yeah. I've been working with credit unions for 4 years now, starting at the League, the Georgia Credit Union Affiliates, which is the state trade association here in Georgia, and then moving on to Excel.
Awesome. Thanks for the intro, Britney. The other thing is a lot of people don't know this, but it's always important to know. You can also find Britney as an article writer on CU Insight. That's how I found her. So if you want to read some of her material, she's on there. Well, Britney, I appreciate you taking the time today with us. And, you know, for all the listeners out there, I think we've dived into the customer and member experience quite a bit. Now, I am fortunate enough to come from that world, literally like the industry of customer experience, and have some familiarity with it and with some of the influencers in that space. But, you know, when it comes to the credit union, they are in particularly very obsessed with this subject because they oftentimes very rarely want to be seen as salespeople. So we can oftentimes learn a lot from the credit union space here. But I want to talk to you specifically about what you think are some of the missing links for building a really good customer and member experience.
Yeah, absolutely. So we refer to our consumers as members because to join a credit union, you essentially become a member, which makes you also a partial owner, a member owner. For every account that's opened, you have a share in the credit union, which gives you a little bit of dog in the fight, if you will. So, of course, we're a little bit more unique in our ability to cater to that member experience because the members are ultimately the ones that are driving the ship for us. They're telling us how they want to hear from us, what kind of products and services they need, what types of rates on loans and investments they're looking for. And those members are really driving the ship and have more authority and more power than a member at a bank like Wells Fargo, where I'm just a consumer. I'm consuming the products that the stakeholders have kind of put in place for us.
Yeah, that's one thing that I think is oftentimes forgotten about with the credit union space, and that's that more member. I actually talked about this in the previous episode with a lady named Lorraine Rinaldi. And credit unions don't like to sell this part, but it's true. They need to sell it more because I don't think even consumers like myself, when I engage with a credit union, I don't really realize that I actually have ownership in that, right? Like, and I really am a member. I don't think about it like that. And I think that sometimes the credit unions can actually sell themselves short by not talking about that more and bringing that out. I think it's a value add that the credit unions are bringing to the members that doesn't exist with a lot of businesses today. Britney, tell us a little bit about that piece from your perspective. Dive a little deeper into that.
Sure.
and talk to us about like that membership potential.
Yeah, absolutely. So by being a member, you get a vote, you get a voice. We are led by a volunteer board of directors. So these are individuals who are not paid. They're volunteered their time to help make sure that we're meeting regulatory compliances, that we are protecting funds in line with the federal government regulations, that our security is top of the line, that safety and wellness is all there, solvency for the credit union. So these are all positions that are electable by the population of the membership. So if you are an individual who's looking to get involved in decision-making for an institution like this, then absolutely, you can throw your name in the hat. You can be elected to the board of directors to serve a term. If you don't like the direction that your credit union is taking, then you can cast a vote at the annual meetings once a year where you can reelect those positions that are up for reseating. So you really do have a great opportunity to have a voice and to have control over the institution that's managing your finances. Something that we're a little hesitant towards is we don't want the perception to be that we are completely exclusive. I think that's a misconception that's come along with credit unions. For example, all I knew before I went to go work for the league was if I want to join a credit union, I have to be in a labor union, or I have to be a member of the military in one of the branches of the armed forces, or I have to work for someone that's partnered with this credit union. That's not necessarily true. There are credit unions that are specific to industries. We call those select employer groups. But there's also credit unions that are open to the public. You can walk in the door as you would at a Bank of America or Wells Fargo and open an account there. You have access to your funds anywhere you go around the world through online and mobile banking, just like you do at a big bank. We support Visa and MasterCard, just like the big banks do. So another big misconception is it's only local. The only way that I can join a credit union is if I'm going to live, work, worship, study all in the same area for the rest of my life. And that's not necessarily true either. We have the co-op shared branching network that's all over the US, where you can go into any of the participating branches and apply for a loan or deposit money or access your accounts. So CUNA, which is the Credit Union National Association, spent a lot of time, energy, and investment over the past couple of years doing that research and understanding why consumers weren't considering credit unions for their financial needs. And those seem to be the two big factors of you're not available where I am, or I am not eligible to join. So there are plenty of resources out there where you can go out and find credit unions in your area that are open to you to come and join, that have a national footprint through that co-op network, or that have those banking features that will allow you access wherever you are in the US or abroad. Also, I mean, one of my favorite activities is to find a remote corner of the world to go discover this time of year. So I've had no problem accessing my accounts in South Africa, Santorini, England, Scotland, wherever I find myself. I've had no issues using debit cards or credit cards or accessing ATMs. So these are just a couple of the things that we as an industry are trying to adjust the perception. And all of that goes into that member experience. So probably a lot of the reason we don't lean so heavily into member driven is we don't want to exclude anyone by making them think I have to be a part of a specific organization to join.
It's really fascinating to me because I have credit unions literally in my backyard, right? I mean, they're super duper close to me, and I drive by them all the time. And there is one credit union that's very well known here in Utah, and I just started doing business with them. And I've known them my whole life, right? It took a really, really good experience for me to have where I could compare that to the big behemoth bank that I switched from, right? Part of that is the member experience and the customer experience that credit unions are creating. I'm curious if you could shed a little light to, this is, by the way, going totally off subject of what we had planned, but I mean, I think it's relevant. Maybe talk to us a little bit about the aspect of how credit unions have to shift their mentality from being able to do things in a more digital fashion, especially now with everything working from home, with COVID making sure that we're all not going anywhere, branches being closed. This is what made my experience with this credit union here in Utah so amazing, was how they could meet me at my level. And being as busy as I was, like handling account openings and opening up brand new checking accounts and savings accounts for my kids, all through text of all things. Yeah. I mean, that's pretty powerful. And I don't know very many banks that can even do that. But I think the advantage that a credit union has, especially over a bank, is they have the people power to be able to be more personal.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And in fact, Excel Federal Credit Union, we're 116 million in assets. So we're a mid-sized credit union located in the outskirts of Atlanta, Georgia. We're doing text banking now. It's something that came up as a result of COVID, of finding a way to extend customer or member service, customer experience without requiring them to set foot in the branch. And without having to really, break the bank, so to speak, with buying laptops and devices for all of our employees. Most of our employees have smartphones. So it's definitely a new avenue. If you experience, I called in a prescription at Kroger the other day, which is a grocery store here in the Southeast, got a text that my prescription was ready and when to go pick it up. My dog's vet visit texted me instructions on what to do when I brought him. We're finding text is becoming a more acceptable means of communication. Sometimes people are more susceptible to answer a text than they would be to answer a phone call now. That's just kind of
guilty.
Exactly. That's the way that the market is shifting. And I think it's really important that credit unions and even small to mid-sized businesses need to be agile enough to recognize these trends and adapt to them. I think one of the big roadblocks for credit unions around innovation is a fear of cost. If you look at your big bank experience, even Chick-fil-A, they have these remarkable customer experiences because they have seemingly bottomless pockets, right? They have all this money to spend to throw at these solutions. We are, as credit unions, we're the underdog. We're nonprofits. So budget's a major concern for us. But in the months that started the COVID quarantine, I did a ton of research and found that these tech solutions, online appointment scheduling, chat functions on your website, these are things that aren't that expensive. They're not insanely unattainable. It's one of those things that you have to throw something huge out there. At Chick-fil-A, we used to call it a BHAG, a big, hairy, audacious goal. You throw that out there and say, this is the monster that I want to do. It seems ridiculous. It seems unattainable. How can I rationalize this down to something that is practical and make it happen? So I'm still achieving that huge goal that I didn't think I could get to, but I'm doing it in a way that's budget friendly, that is easy to teach and train your staff to adjust to. And it's easy for most importantly, it's easy for consumers to adapt to. And so when you kind of take those hurdles out of the way and start looking at what's really available, you would be surprised what you can do.
Yeah. And, I like the fact that you bring up your Chick-fil-A experience because, let's be real. I don't think there's a fast food chain that does it better than them. Come on. I don't think anybody would disagree with that. Whether you agree with what they're about or whatever the case may be, it doesn't matter. They do it right. And one of the things that I think is undervalued is the fact they have a person at every step of the journey. Go through their drive-through. Just go through it. I don't care if you don't like their food. Get some fries if you want, right? Go through their journey. Every step of the way, there's a human there. Even if you're in a really, really long line, there's somebody there with an iPad that's shared. It probably costs them a one-time fee to distribute a bunch of iPads across. And there's somebody there every step of the journey, and they're always asking you, enjoy your day. They want to make sure that you're having a good experience through the whole thing. Right?
Oh, yeah. We called those remarkable experiences. You wanted to create an environment and an experience for the guest that they would go out and remark about. So whether that's a team member giving a little cow toy to a screaming toddler to calm them down and, help the mom, or walking someone to their car with an umbrella during the rain, these are not earth-shattering, amazingly innovative things that Chick-fil-A is doing. They're very basic, but nobody else is doing it. And so when you go through that experience, you leave there and you tell everybody about it. You remark about it.
You hit the nail on the head, and that's sometimes simple is better. And it's just getting back to our roots of creating more human interaction and connection. Think about it, especially with everybody working from home right now, the social distancing. Even if they have a mask on, they're still there, right? They're still there helping you. That kind of brings us to another point that I wanted to touch on with you. And that's the fact that there are some credit unions out there that are doing an amazing job at this. Talk to us about some of those, if you might know them. Maybe it might even be your own credit union. And how has that changed now that people are mostly working from home?
Yeah, I think it's kind of funny. A lot of my friends and I were millennials. And when we kind of came out into the workforce, we realized our jobs could very easily be done at home, but nobody wanted to take that risk. Nobody wanted to try it. So we kind of laugh now at how quickly businesses were able to adapt. And these are people that work at credit unions, people that work at UPS, people that work in retail. They're now sitting at home coding and designing and creating really cool work. And we're like, yeah, we told you we could have done this from day one. But, now we've seen the success story and it's really working. I think that it's just kind of taking that leap of faith. One big hurdle that I've experienced in the credit union space is if it ain't broke, don't fix it. An old Southernism. I think it's so easy for us to fall into patterns of doing the same thing because it's how it was always done and it works. We have members. One big selling point of a credit union versus a large bank is the associates at your credit union know you. They know when you got married. They know when you had your children. You're opening accounts for your grandchildren now. And whether it's the same person behind the counter performing your transaction or if it's the third generation in of working there, you've built this relationship with these people. So we have members who just love to come in and spend time with us and know what's going on in our lives. And they don't want to be told, oh, you can download an app for that, right? They don't want to do that. And we don't want to do that. We don't want to discourage them from having that wonderful interaction with us. But I think what some credit unions are missing is there's a whole new generation of potential members out there that aren't that tightly bound in with us and that are looking for the same functionality that they can get at a big bank or from the new mobile solutions and Acorn and those kinds of things that are out there. Like they're looking for ways to bring their finances to a platform where they're comfortable, like you were saying earlier. So if we're playing to just that one side of the house of the people that, they want to come in and they want to see us, and we're not doing anything to really rein in the new generation, the younger members, we're really selling ourselves short. And unfortunately, the thing that nobody wants to say because it's terrible is those people who have those deep ties with us, they're not borrowing anymore. They're not bringing any new business in. And if we're catering to them alone, we're stunting our ability to grow. So I have seen credit unions take that mindset and kind of throw it out the window and say, okay, well, we can still have John and Sue that come in and speak to us all the time, but then we can also make this convenience of a mobile app, of online banking. We can integrate Apple Pay. At Excel, you can text the word apply to our phone number and you get a response back that leads you to an online application. So you can do all of that through text. So these are things that our members were maybe hesitant towards before COVID, but now all of a sudden the reality sets in of, oh my gosh, I can't go into the branch and sign this paperwork. What am I going to do? Oh yeah, I can go on the app and I can do that. Okay. And they call us and we walk them through by phone, step by step, how to get there. So I've seen a ton of credit unions that have, they've had that technology in their back pocket for a while. They really haven't forced it as on their members as much as maybe they could have. But now that we're reopen, we're finding members really aren't coming in that much because we've taught them everything they need to know to do it. And if they have a question, the phone and have a conversation with the same person every day. The difference is we're eliminating exposure. So we're protecting their health and safety first while still providing the same level of service they've come to expect.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned this because I think that I've spoken all over the world about this term of account-based marketing. And I think that a lot of times it's referenced in a B2B perspective, right? A business selling to a business. But I think we sell it short a lot because I think a B2C company like a credit union is selling into a household, right? And there are decision makers, the parents, but they also need to figure out ways to win over the kids. And to your point, this generation that you and I's generation being millennials, and then this Gen Z generation that's coming up, right? All of those generations are digital first. They're tech savvy. They're in the thick of Like I'll open up a checking and banking account online all day long before I'd go into a branch if I could, right? On my own time, way late at night when I actually have the time. And I think that there's a big missing piece here. Like if you're trying to gain more share of the wallet with more members and even more share of the wallet within a household, that's ultimately what you've got to do. You've got to be able to empower your members and the household to do exactly that. So I love the fact that you brought up that generation gap, because I do think that there is that exists. And to your point of, not fixing what's not broke, right? And to never sell what we do at CRMNEXT, kind of a shameless plug here, but honestly, this is part of what we focus on and why it's so important, because we truly believe that in order for people to, especially credit unions, in order for credit unions to be able to take advantage of that, they need to have systems that empower them to do it. Some of those systems get in the way,
Yeah. I'm a huge supporter of having the technology to be intelligent with the intelligence you have. One of the kind of big epiphanies I had as I started doing marketing in the credit union, everybody wants to grow. Well, there's really two different types of growth. You can grow by adding new members, or you can deepen relationships with existing members. And so as I'm having these strategic planning sessions with credit unions and we're talking about which type of growth makes the most sense for you, ultimately it all comes down to how much money do you want to spend to market to these people. It's much more cost effective to deepen the existing relationships because you know everything about them. You can see I'm using my credit union account to pay my Capital One bill, or I'm using my credit union account to pay off my car loan from the Volvo dealership down the road. No other business has that level of intelligence on their consumers. So, and how many times do if you go out and you buy a car from a car lot, most likely it is not the dealership that's financing the car. That loan gets sold to a financial institution. You could potentially be a member of a credit union and not even know it, because that credit union's not taking the next step to introduce themselves to you.
Brittany, that is exactly how this credit union in Utah won me over. I've driven past that credit union a million times in my life, and I've never once gone into the branch and opened up an account with them. But during COVID, it was right before it got really bad. We became first-time RV owners, and they were our financial institution. From there, the door opened, and you're totally right. Not everybody knows they even are a member of a credit union until they actually are, and then it's all a matter of that credit union doing their best to create a good experience, just like we've been talking about. And I think a very undersold method to this is because there is so much data that credit unions have on their members, leverage it. Have fun with it. I mean, if you know when your members' birthdays are, send them something that they're not going to forget about. Not a little handwritten postcard. I'm talking about like send them a fun gift.
Exactly. Yeah. And having fun is the most important thing. This is my love language, branding and member experience. This is how I get excited and passionate about these things every day. So I don't see how people don't have fun with this. It's a way to tap into creativity that you may not even know that you have. But you're creating, like we've been talking about, you're creating those remarkable experiences. How many people, for example, I get a free Brewster's ice cream card for my birthday from my car insurance provider. How many companies do that? And I look forward to it every year. I go get an ice cream cone from the ice cream place around the corner. So any little thing like that you're doing that's building those member relationships, it's tiny in the grand scheme of everything else that you're doing for your marketing and for your communications as a whole, but it's making a difference to that person, to that individual who is then going to post it on their social media or tell their friends about it or tell their children about it, and it's just going to become this viral explosion of, wow, that's really cool. Who knew? Right? It takes off from there, from something so tiny. So absolutely use the data you have.
So Brittany, let's talk about the future of the member experience. Give us 2 to 3 things that you think will be pivotal to the future of the member experience, meaning they are going to be required moving forward.
Absolutely. I think that, the big things are going to be innovation, flexibility, and communication. I mean, it all comes down to those three. You have to be taking the risk to change, to speak to members on the field in which they want to communicate. My CEO and I had this conversation this morning. We were talking about Facebook. And he said, my 15-year-old's not on Facebook. And I said, well, neither am I. And he laughed and he said, why not? And I said, because it's where my parents are now. So his 15-year-old and I are watching TikTok videos and we're on Snapchat and Reddit and all these other platforms that he's never heard of. But, he's still on Facebook, and there is still a huge call for Facebook to be used in that way. But if you're finding that the people that you want to target do not use Facebook, then that's a waste of your time and energy. You have to pivot to the next thing. You have to innovate. I read this study on financial institutions and why so many applications are abandoned. And it comes down really to three main reasons. The big reason is you're not considering the journey from point A to point B. What is it going to take from a consumer experience to get from finding out that you offer something to applying to have it themselves? The first is there's no way to save and continue. So this is a really frustrating thing, I think, for anyone, especially in the pandemic right now. I want to order a pizza and I go online to the pizza place and put in my order. I'm picking out my crust. I'm picking out my toppings, my sides, my desserts, because if I'm going to cheat, I'm going to cheat a lot and go all the way with it. But then it asks me for my credit card number. And this particular app or website, for some reason, isn't pulling my Apple Pay, and it's not pulling the credit card I have saved in my phone. So now I have to get up off the couch. I have to go find my wallet, find my credit card, go back to my phone, enter the information. But by that time, it's already timed out and I have to start all over again. Well, in that moment that it took to time out and have to refresh, I have now convinced myself, well, I really didn't need to eat that pizza because I didn't go to the gym today, so I'll eat something healthy instead. So that pizza joint has lost the sale, 3 large pizzas and some Cinesticks. and I have now unfulfilled cravings of pizza and frustration around the whole concept of it all, because there wasn't an easy way for me to save where I was and come back to it when I had the information I needed. The second big thing is the time it takes to load the next page. We, like you were talking about, the millennial and the Gen Z, we are the on-demand generations. We are so used to everything at our fingertips that we don't want to wait. We don't want to have to load the next screen. So just like I gave up on my pizza order because they didn't take my credit card from Apple Pay, or they don't have a way to save it for the next time, pizza joints, listen to me. I'm just not really going to follow through on this anymore. And especially when it comes to finances, if it's not a fluent experience, we're out. It's concerning to put all of our private information out into the ether of the internet, and then it takes 5 minutes to load the next page. I'm worried that either somebody has stolen my identity, or I didn't enter something wrong, or my parents lied and that's not really my social security number. There's just so many things that can go wrong in that scenario. And last, certainly not least, is that you can't do it all online. So you said this earlier, like there's nothing worse than thinking I can completely take care of this online and then realizing, nope, I got to put on real pants and go to a branch and talk to a human being. That's just terrible. So at Excel, at my credit union, we're remedying this now. We're finding solutions that will allow you to take pictures of the documentation you need to complete the application, like your driver's license or your W-2s, and you can upload them right in the web portal, and it's all taken care of. You can keep wearing your SpongeBob pajamas and flip-flop slippers. You do not have to leave your house. Everything can be done from start to finish. But if you put something out there that gets me 90% of the way, I'm not going to finish the last 10%. It's just frustrating as a consumer. So as the people at the credit union that are making these decisions kind of sit back and think about that, they can realize, if I were this consumer, take the inside baseball jargon out of the way, if I were the consumer coming in off the street, how frustrating would this be to me? And that's where you start. That's how you start figuring out how to streamline a member experience. That's where the real fun begins.
I think the most undervalued thing people can do in marketing, and they just don't do it, is we have kind of a rule within my team, and really all the teams that I've ever led, this is the same rule, and that's that you never do anything that you actually haven't walked in the customer's shoes. And product should be doing the same thing. Sales should be doing the same thing. It's interesting because, in my opinion, I think that there's really one word that can sum up, I think, the future of even business, not just with just the credit unions in the banking world, but just everything. And that's convenience. The more convenient it is, the better it will be. For example, a good example of this during COVID is, if you've ever heard of the app Instacart. How many people have now ordered their groceries online and had it delivered to their door and paid the fee? I do. I pay that extra fee. I don't care if it costs more money. The fact that I don't have to go to the grocery store with 4 screaming kids and hear from every one of my kids, Daddy, can I have this? Daddy, can I have that? Daddy, can I have this? Don't get me wrong, I love my kids. But the fact that I don't have to hear that, and that is delivered to my door, it's still fresh. I get sometimes people want to pick out their own produce and all that. I get that. But the convenience of it is the key here. And to your point, you cannot take somebody 90% and then allow and require them to go the extra 10. It's just never going to work. You've got to take them the full way, and you've got to provide avenues in which they can get there. So let's talk about this fun portion. How can credit unions make it more fun?
Oh, yeah. I mean, again, I just don't know how it's not fun. This is Christmas for me. I think it's so overwhelming and intimidating to hear we're going to innovate. We're going to change. That word change is just terrifying for everyone. But what we need to realize is we don't have to recreate the wheel. We just got to get better mileage. You can take the member service best practices that we've all and bring them to current year. It's not that complicated. It's not that scary. Another COVID example around Chick-fil-A, I've been blown away by how quickly and seamlessly they adapted their business model to this pandemic.
Oh my gosh.
I mean,
amen to that.
Within a week, their mobile app was updated that you could mobile order and you could choose to go through the drive-thru, or you could choose to park and they would walk it out to you. Here's the Chick-fil-A difference, though. They will text you to tell you they're coming to your car so that while you're belting out songs to the radio, you don't get terrified by somebody knocking on your window. They warn you that they're coming.
It's the little things, though. Yes. It's the little things.
But they were able to add a third lane to their drive-thru, to add signage in the parking lot telling you where to go in a week. And it was beautiful and seamless, and it looks like it's been that way forever. The ones around here in the Metro Atlanta area, duct taped credit card readers to spatulas so that they didn't take my card away from me. My credit card was not touched by anyone but me, and I could just swipe it on the little spatula thingy that they would stick in the window. I mean, it's insane. That's brilliant. So those kinds of things, like, you have to imagine them sitting around in a room. And whoever came up with the idea to tape the credit card reader to a spatula, they had to think he was crazy until he showed them what it looked like, and it works. That's the fun of all of this. It's throwing the crazy idea board up on the whiteboard and just writing anything and everything that comes into your head, and then figuring out what is actually able to be achieved in this amount of time and on this budget. And one of my biggest pet peeves with businesses all around is technology for technology's sake should not be a thing. We're talking a lot about mobile apps and mobile technology. Don't invest a ton of money in having it just to say you do. When you're evaluating those solutions, you need to think, what is this going to replace or enhance about my members' experience? How is this going to make it easier or reduce the number of steps to get from point A to point B? One of my favorite, also most frustrating examples of this is P2P payments like Venmo. This is the new thing. We go out to dinner, we pick up one check, everybody Venmos equal amount back to the person who paid it, and it makes life so much easier on the restaurant and on all of us, and we have a great time. You can't really go out anymore, but I can Venmo for my portion of the DoorDash bill. So credit unions tried to get on board with this and find cost-effective solutions. But the challenge was nobody asked the person in the room that actually uses the software. So they all invested all this money in these disparate systems that are now going to require me to download a new app and to tell all my friends to download a new app so I can send them money. That's almost as inconvenient as me trying to find an ATM and get cash. It's just not going to happen. So you invested all of this money on a solution to a problem that nobody really had in the first place. You didn't get Venmo or Zelle or Cash App, one that's being used. You got something else, and now nobody's taking advantage of it. So it really didn't do anything to make the member experience better. You have it, but nobody's using it.
I don't think anything drives me mad more than when I'm trying to like transfer money and I have to, oh man, that drives me mad. Like just use the apps that are already out there that have figured this out before you and allow it to do the work that is going to make your members think of you better.
Yes. Thank you.
Like they're doing the work for you. Are you kidding me? Like if I had somebody that would do half the marketing work for me, I mean, why wouldn't I do it? Right?
Oh, absolutely. Use what's been practiced. Take advantage of that. Definitely.
Well, Britney, it has been a fantastic time having you on. I appreciate you joining us today. Hope the listeners have gotten everything that they plan to get out of this. Thanks again, Britney.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. It's been a blast.
You know, before we leave, I actually do have one question for you.
Sure.
Tell me about, it can't be Chick-fil-A. Tell me about a company or a business that a little bit of a story behind how they have made you feel like family, because ultimately that's the credit union's goal, is to make their members feel like family. Yeah.
So I am such a geek about this. This is what I do every day. So I totally fall for branding. Absolutely. 100% of the time. I'm the one to read the book because the cover looked cool, but I love the Loft. So I'm a huge fan of this, these different brands that fall up under the Loft umbrella and Taylor and all of that. And I think that they really do a great job of communicating to their customers, to their loyal customers. I get birthday wishes from them regularly. I get updates on things, on sales and things that I might be interested in, but something that makes them, in my opinion, a step above another brand would be they send recommendations. If I have something sitting in my cart that I haven't purchased, they'll send me a recommendation on how to complete the look. So to me, that's hugely helpful because I am 100% a mannequin shopper. I will just buy what they've already put together for me. But it also shows me that they're paying attention and they're using the metadata. They're seeing the top that I have and they know what pants go best, or they see earrings that would work. From the back end, it's not that difficult to do. But from a consumer standpoint, they're reminding me I didn't complete my purchase, so I shouldn't be looking for that package. And they're recommending an upsell without me really feeling like they're upselling me. So I think that that's a really good use of information that's helpful to me as a consumer.
Yeah, I love you brought that up because, again, back to my original point when we first started this episode, and I get it. Credit unions do not want to be seen as salespeople. Mm-hmm. And that's why it's super important that the experience that you create makes it seem like it's not that, but it's just you continuing to build the relationship. I think that's a perfect example that you just gave.
Oh, absolutely. There was a Harvard business study that I read a couple years ago that was selling a hole. So you don't go to Home Depot to buy a drill. You go to Home Depot because you need a hole, and the drill makes the hole. Depot is not selling me a drill. It's selling me a solution problem. And if credit union organizations can kind of pivot on the way that they think about sales, is it's not selling to sell, it's selling to solve. It's a solution-based sell. I think that we can find common ground on that concept.
Well, Britney, thank you again for joining us on the Banking Experience podcast. I'd love to have you again.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Thank you. This was a blast.
Awesome. We'll see you later.